We're coming out dangerous.
Rockets going off.
Sometimes the brightest stars shine for the shortest amount of time.
Yeah, oh yeah.
They heard us all across Tallahassee after that one.
We got to bring home the W.
Oh yeah, we're gonna destroy them.
Put them on the Heisman watch.
They're fine, man.
Big Ten Player of the Year.
We're going to be a force to be reckoned with.
I played a little adult league, goalie.
I felt like I scored in the World Cup, but I didn't even score.
Controversy? Question mark?
Pure chaos.
To go crazy was insane.
Chris Petley, he was the defensive MVP of the 2019 season.
Oh yeah, no, I'm in my prime right now. Let's go.
And welcome back to another TallySCtalk podcast. I'm Trent Young alongside my co-host Andrew Joop. We're here to break down our match day 3 recap of the match against Pensacola FC. So we'll be breaking that down. So just wanted to check in with you, Joop. How's everything going today, my man?
Any day we can talk a little TSC is a good day, my man. Like you said, we got a little match recap coming here. We'll talk some big picture stuff about what we thought about Pensacola, and then we can get into a little interrogation of interest to come later in the podcast. So a lot of activity as always, Trent. But we're going to try to bring the excitement, bring the noise, bring some fun, and bring a whole bunch more to the table here. So thanks for checking in with us. Like you said, Trent, coming off the rip, man, hot reactions. What'd you think about the game at PFC? Of course, anybody listening to this is probably a fan. I don't know how you stumbled upon us, but thank you. But so they probably know 3-3 against PFC, Pensacola Football Club out there to our west, Trent. We went on the road. Instant reactions from Saturday.
Absolutely, Joop. So first things off the top of my head, just a good showing, full 90 minutes to bounce back and get a point on the road. We were down 3-1 in the second half. Came back after the 70th minute in the last 20 minutes and actually drew the game 3-3, scored 2 unanswered goals there in the last 20 minutes. So that was huge to come away with a point. But, scoring 3 goals and giving up 3 goals can be a little disheartening. But we were away on the road. We actually didn't even know if we were going to be able to make it out to the match because we had a little crisis here in the Panhandle with gas and the availability of it because of some of the stuff with the pipeline and all that. But we were able to get out there, get the game going, and get a much-needed point on the road.
No doubt about it, Trent. We come back. It seems like a pattern now establishing. This is how things go when we go on the road. We head out on a little western road trip. We have a furious second half comeback. We end up drawing, and we get 3 goals in the bag, and we ride off into the sunset. I would say into the sunset, but we're actually riding away to the sunset, coming back east. We got a point on the board, so not bad. So we come in 3 games, obviously, with 2 points, and so on the points per game section, puts us at 5th in the table, of course, behind Pensacola. But we're right in the mix of the playoffs, and so it's kind of a bittersweet thing that we've talked about throughout the week, or just kind of thoughts in general. You look at the schedule, 3 games in, only 2 points, and so you're like, that's kind of a bummer. But then on the flip side, you say, hey, we've played Jacksonville, which is top 2, if not top 3 team in the league, and we played them to 1 goal. We took them to the brink, first game of the year, when a lot of our current players weren't there. Number 2, we had 2 road games, and the old adage, Trent, in soccer is you win at home, tie on the road. So check and check. We tied 2 matches on the road, took care of business. Of course, looking at the talent and what we expected side by side of TSC and Pensacola, TSC and the Roots, seeing them play, would have loved to see the boys come out with a victory. But at the same time, you're trailing in both of these games in the second half and be able to come back and get the draw. These are win draws, if that makes sense, Trent. Of course, you don't get 2 points for win draws or, a point for playing a good game and an entertaining fixture like kind of you do in hockey. You get that overtime point. But at this stage, hey, man, you got to be positive about the outlook. We've played the eastern half of the NPSL. Now we're going to bring in the western boys, of course, hosting Southern States this week, but it'll give us an interesting outlook on what the league looks like. And so definitely some positivity coming out of that game, absolutely. And Trent, once again, the narrative of this team, fight and grind it. You talk about the adversity with the pipeline and the gas shortage. What were some other things, some other barriers, Trent? We're not making excuses for the performance, but these are things mentally, physically, these are all kind of creeping in because there are a lot of changes and upheaval of what we thought would just be a normal week 3 away match. really kind of turned into a complicated situation. But what are some of those other things that affected the team out this week that, once again, not an excuse, but it's kind of the elephant in the room, and these are things that come up and are impacting the squad, man, is because these are all real-life people. You think just because they're playing at a high level that they're professionals, that they're immune to these things. They are not, man, and this is something that we support the boys in. Times are tough sometimes, man. I guess that's all I got to say.
Yeah, well, you said it best. I mean, these are real life people, real life problems, and sometimes life happens, as we all know as humans. But yeah, Coach Bruno unfortunately had some family matters, some family affairs. He could not attend the game, couldn't be there in person. So Coach V stepped up and was the head coach in his place. So that was really awesome to see him just being the next man up. Total battle line mentality, for the club, for Tallahassee, by Tallahassee, just doing what he has to do to get this team a result. And, we got a point. It definitely would have, we would have preferred to get 2 or 3 points. Obviously 2 is impossible, like you said, but I don't want to say gotten shafted the last couple of weeks, but, it just feels like it's just been a little rough. Unfortunately, the ball hasn't bounced our way. And, but, it was still really awesome to have Coach V out there filling in for Bruno. And he had a new formation, which I thought we actually played fairly well in, definitely in the second half when we came back and scored those 2 goals. So, yeah, man, gas, coaches, players, I mean, coming back from college, injuries and stuff. We'll get into that a little bit later, but, just lots of cogs and moving parts to this operation. But hey, I mean, here we are, 5th in the table. I mean, just with 2 draws alone after 3 games, I think that's something huge we can build on. And hopefully this Saturday we'll be getting our first win of the season.
No doubt. That's definitely on the mind. Of course, we finally get back to Gamecock Stadium. It's been a while since the boys have been in the friendly confines down there on the south side. So, of course, if you're listening to this and you don't have any plans, maybe if you do have plans, I say cancel those plans. Get down there to the south side, 7 p.m. I know they've got a little tailgate going on. If you like some adult beverages, stop by in the late afternoon, hit up Proof. I think they're having a pregame there. Of course, sponsor of TSC here, so support them. Once again, local stuff. They got a lot of good brands of alcohol and different flavors, so whatever your palate is, they've got you covered there. But all in the name of supporting Tallahassee and supporting this club, because these guys are all locals. This isn't a bunch of imports coming from across the country, across the world. These are Tallahassee guys, everybody with Tallahassee ties here in the mix, working 9 to 5s, a blue-collar group. But yeah, Trent, it will be an exciting matchup. Glad we're back home. And like you said, this is a huge one to be able to put our stamp on the league here. But once again, going back, yeah, you talked about Coach V, so shout out to him, Coach Voyles, for coming back into the mix. Of course, being part of the coaching staff in 2019, doing a great job. New formation. Trent, let's talk a little bit about that. I know you kind of in passing talked about the 4-4-3, or excuse me, the 4-3-3. Can't have 11 guys out in the field of the formation. Typically, we're in a 4-5-1. Did you think it helped us, or what did you think when you saw the roster drop probably about an hour, 90 minutes before game time?
Yeah, Jupe, I was super eager to see how they were going to work in that 4-3-3 together. We had Schmoker, Fitzgerald, and Wimberly in the defensive mid. They're all 3 in the midfield, holding play, linking the defense to the attack. And then out wide, we had Levy Nasimba and Cousin Sai, 2 of our most pacey players that we have on the team, and make something happen. And so them with Justin Laird up top, the veteran forward, I would say, of this team, who really finds himself in a lot of positions to get free kicks right around the box. I would like to say deceptive with his play. I mean, you think, he's a 27-year-old guy, but man, he was getting after it in this game, just booking it for a couple balls down the sideline. And he's fighting, going back to his days playing in college and out in the Midwest and stuff. And so he's just built differently. I feel like he doesn't look like he's stacked, but man, he puts up a good fight out there. And so Justin Laird playing off Sty, playing off Levy. I mean, it was definitely going to be a game that I was anticipating. I'm always anticipating every game, but yeah, no, with that formation that Coach V put out there, I was hoping that we could get just, I don't want to say more goals. 3 goals is definitely enough, but you just wonder if having such an attacking minded lineup held us back on defense and allowed for some more of those goals to be conceded.
Definitely something that was a point of interest, no doubt. Yeah, once I saw it drop, man, I was pumped because I'm thinking We just put 3 in against Pensacola. We've got a 4-4-3 that we're starting now. Coach V wants to bring the fire, so I liked it right out of the deck. He's dealing us a good hand, man. Let's go get some goals early, bury these fools. And I was thinking, man, we could be looking at 4-goal territory with this squad. And so obviously didn't play out like that. Once again, 2 straight games with 3 goals. I mean, that's an accomplishment. I think we're tied for the league in goals for. So 7 goals through 3 matches is pretty sublime. So I was very excited about it and hoping for a goal fest. And hey, man, we did get 3 in, so it worked. I mean, we had some late drama and took some shenanigans, and some of the goals, or one of the goals, we didn't see on the away feed, which is another area of distinction that we'll get to. But it was an exciting way to start off and really kind of got us going, and it was a good little bit of hype. So I loved the drop there from the TSC Twitter to be able to throw that out, get people fired up for it. I thought it was really cool going forward. And once again, kind of bringing that pressure, bringing that heat, man. But anything else leading into the match? Because if not, we can get rolling and kind of talk about our impacts here, the early going.
Yeah, no, I was just excited to see Johnny Fitzgerald back starting in the lineup again, and Cy Levy out wide, so those are really my main takeaways. We got Cromback back in goal. Excited to see Cromback get back out there. I thought he played pretty decent game head to toe. We'll get into that here in just a second, all what happened. But yeah, I think those are just my first initial takeaways.
So Trent, let's go ahead and get into it. We can dive out of our big observations, our big picture stuff, and get more into the game and see how things actually went rolling here in the early going, just to kind of trace back. Like we said, we're not going to go through every single thing that happened in the game, but just kind of a flow or generality. Obviously, we kicked off, got some good attack going, and we're able to generate a corner even in the first minute to get things rolling. The intensity was up. The players were chasing after the balls. We were fired up offensively, bringing the press, and one gets through in the back, and we have a little bit of a hairy situation early. And what happens there in the third minute, Trent?
Yeah, in the third minute, the ball gets dropped. They're swinging it, moving it through the outside of the pitch. Ball comes back to Cromback. It takes kind of a big touch, and one of the players for Pensacola comes onto the ball, and it looks like he, is going to keep pushing forward with his momentum, and he just kind of stands there. But yeah, Cromback just goes to ground, slides the offender, and it was definitely a penalty kick. That was a good call. So yeah, he guessed right. He dove to his right on the penalty kick, and attacking player shot it to the right, to the back post. And yeah, it was a goal 3 minutes in. So little unfortunate. It's a goal. What are you going to do about it? Move on, get another one back.
One of those tough situations. It was coming back, and the defender comes in, swipes it, and he's the last line of defense, man. That's it. So you got to take him down. You got to get the ball somehow. So he goes for it. Unfortunately, just misses the ball, but chops him down like a tree, like you said, PK. And, I mean, we know the percentages on PK, so they bury that. And so this is one thing that added to the list now, Trent. We talk about this Battle Lions team being able to fight back and overcome adversity, and you're on the road. Not necessarily, I don't want to say an adverse environment, but there wasn't a huge crowd presence. But, you're on the road. This is unfamiliar, less than desirable field that you're playing on, with a lot of bare spots, a lot of worn down spots. Stone's throw from the local elementary school, so it's not like a big, grand high school stadium or a shared city stadium. This is what the club is using. And so once again, add it to the frustrations, the gas crisis, everything else going, the shortage of players, coach not being there, and you're going to need to find some energy. You need an answer, and this is just a team thing. Adversity, what you got going on. This is now the third consecutive game that TSC has trailed, and I believe, just as kind of a sidebar, they're the only team to have trailed in 3 games, and then they're the only team, I believe, to have taken a 2-goal lead and a 2-goal deficit, but still in the middle of the table, Trent. So just an interesting aside there as I was looking at the standings. But yeah, so obviously an early deficit and, going after the ball. So that was a little unfortunate, but they responded, a little bit of a bounce back. And once again, the pressure playing in big. We saw it last week. It's how we got the 2 goals, or we saw it the week before, against the Roots. That's how we got the 2 goals generated early, is pressure, cutting off those angles, getting after the passes. And we had a great answer, Trent. The pressure. Defense is cumulative, baby. It's about effort. Loved it early. And what happens, man? Because we got a little bailout here. We went down, but then we get right back up 4 minutes later. Tell me a little bit about that sequence and what went down.
Yeah, man. So very reminiscent of our game the week before against the Florida Roots. Early on, not quite as early as 22 seconds into the match, but Johnny Fitzgerald coming onto a ball in the attacking third. The defender, outside back, I believe, just took a little bit too big of a touch on the ball, and Johnny, right place, right time, like always. It was a pretty big touch, actually. But, yeah, Johnny just got the ball and was super confident going up against the goalie one-on-one, and just kind of shifted back post, leaned to his left like he was going to pull it near post, and just opened his hips up, floated it back there. Keeper dove to his right, ball went to his left. It was beautiful. So that was very awesome to see him bounce back just 3-4 minutes later, put one in the back of the net, and level this thing up, man.
Once again, a product of the pressure, being on top of it, and just getting after a loose ball. Because if Johnny's not in that position, he's playing the midfield. He's all the way up in this pressure role as we try to alter the formation and put some pressure on these backs. And that's kind of an overarching theme that we made a note of, Trent, is the defensive back for Pensacola did not seem confident on the ball. And I want to throw the keeper in there as well. So that back 4 to 5, when we put the pressure on, I feel like we were able to generate those turnovers and get what we needed to do. So like you said, Johnny, great position, heavy touch, very heavy touch from the defender. He's able, rips it off his foot, like you said, whoop, puts it in the back of the net, like you said, confidently so. Johnny be good, Fitzgerald with the breakthrough. And we're back on level terms, man. So a little bit of a bumpy ride the first 7 minutes, but then we get rolling. We are back to equal, exactly where we want to be. So we're like, okay, we got the 4-4-3 set up. We're getting ready to get rolling. We have some good momentum building here. We want to take this into the next level. And there was a little bit of a interesting sequence there just a couple minutes later after the 7th minute. Pensacola had some good build-up, and then there was a good clearance by Monroe as he steps in and clears the ball, but PSC gets a corner, and then there was an injured player down. Evidently, something happened during the corner kick. One of their big players, I think it was number 10, Alves, if I'm correct. I think that's the guy that hit the PK, was number 10. Evidently, he tweaked his hamstring, and there was limited play-by-play or audio feed that we could use and that was productive out of the PSC feed, if you will, off of the by Cujo Trent. But one thing we did know is, oh no, did he tweak his hamstring? So evidently this had been an ongoing problem here for Alves, but he was subbed off, and he was evidently one of their better players there in the 9th minute, and so that caused a little bit of a delay. So after the build-up and all of that, is it really effective play? Because we looked down at it, Trent, I believe it was the 8:36 mark that they were awarded the corner, but they did not kick the ball until the 10:34 mark. So it was just shy of being a full 2 minutes of quote-unquote stoppage time, which is a nice buzzword here that we've seen over the last couple of weeks in this NPSL league. Hashtag NPSL props. Trent, this would be an interesting one to look over, but I feel like that really kind of put the kibosh on things because you had both teams. It was active. The goal scored, so we responded with a goal of our own, so now the game's kind of flowing because, sometimes it can be a little stale, of course, with a small crowd and everything like it was until somebody gets a goal to kind of jumpstart this action. But once again, that was almost like a restart of the game that we had to get going here in that early going. And it really kind of put the game into an awkward, choppy lull. It felt like to me, for the next, to be where we would be in kind of that water break, I guess you would say. Of course, we got the phantom water break there in the first half. Evidently didn't take any water breaks in Pensacola, not till the second half, but an interesting situation with that. But I guess once the goal goes in, what's kind of your feeling or what's the grasp of the ball game? Is because both of these guys have chances and there's some good saves from Krembeck and we have some build up, they're having some build up and teams kind of going back and forth. But what is your feel of the action after the TSC goes in to put us on level terms?
Yeah, so I felt, and not to disrespect anybody by any means, but I thought that it just felt just a little sloppy. Both goals weren't really the greatest quality. There was an error on the defense that resulted in a goal on both sides. So, I was wondering in the back of my mind, dang, are we going to get another one of these shootouts? But, I really didn't think it was going to end up 3-3 again, especially not on the road. But Yeah, obviously that's what happened. But yeah, no, I mean, I like what you said about how after that injury happened, the game did kind of go into a lull, and it didn't seem like play was as cohesive for a few minutes. Everyone was kind of just thrown off a little bit by that. And in just the 11th and 12th minute, we had a couple good series of play. In the 11th minute, Johnny played a ball out wide to Levy. Levy took a great touch, had to wait just a second for it, but, just used his momentum to pull the ball forward and almost got into the attacking third, got double teamed and got slid. So that was unfortunate. And then just a few moments after that, there was some good play. In the back, Mike Zamore actually had a really good tackle, a really good step. He had one-on-one out wide with one of the outside midfielders. And Levy Nasimba was actually tracking back on defense. And after the ball was poked away, he kind of didn't really set a pick, but just ever so slightly got in the way of that winging player, kind of took him out of the challenge for Mike. And so Mike plays the ball to Johnny Fitzgerald, but Johnny corralled it, is fighting arm in arm with the guy next to him, shoulder to shoulder, plays it out wide to Levy, who recovers, makes that run back out wide, takes a really good touch in stride, and just couldn't quite find anybody and was kind of double teamed, locked down, got slid, and lost the ball, unfortunately. But that was a really good glimpse of what Tallahassee can bring to the table and was about to bring to the table just there in the 11th, 12th minute. And so I thought that was really encouraging to see early on.
That was a gradual improvement that we've seen, is the construction, the build-up from the back, whether you have Mike, Drew, Cole, whoever's ever back there, David, running the show and facilitating out of the back to hit the wingers and then get it into the midfield, either dump it towards the middle and dump it back out, or dump it to the outside and then hit back into the middle, or something long over the top to switch. But a continual pattern that I saw you see in this game, and just some good movement. It would create those triangles or those four. You saw Johnny Wimbo, Levy all get in the mix, passes back and forth, and then you'd flip over to the other side with Cy. And there was some good construction. And like I said, we had some good build-up. To your point, Trent, that was an opportunity. Generated some corners like we saw in the 15th. And minutes later after that in the 18th as well. But Pensacola, I felt like, was either more cohesive or more constructive play-wise than the Florida Roots. So I felt like we were threatened more than we were against the Roots. Maybe not necessarily quality chances, but, they were getting good counterattacks. They were going high. Some shots on frame. Some of them were a little wild that ended up going up as far as shots, maybe not necessarily shots on frame or coming off the outside of the foot. You have to keep in mind that this was their first game, so they're shaking all this off. They're breaking in the home field, all this other stuff. A lot of the motions that we saw versus Jacksonville, due to different delays, we've been experienced and be able to digest that and grow from that. But these are some experiences for them, but they were ready to go, and they were launching the counterattack, and they were constructive, and this was something, it made it a little more back and forth. So you kind of get that pinball game going, some excitement, but once again, choppy, some of the footing, players losing their footing, some calls, a lot of out of bounds, and some jeers from the crowd were coming in at this point, but definitely some opportunities both ways. But I like the good pressure, like you said, coming in from TSC, try to generate some quick turnovers, but I thought that Pensacola at times was also using our own medicine against us, Trent, and doing the same exact thing. They were pressing up high. That's how they generated essentially their goal in the 3rd minute. And so, not break your poison, but they were given what we were dishing out. And so it made for a wild game. I thought we were a little more composed, definitely coming out of the back than they were, which was a good source of confidence, and we held some solid possession, and something that continues to improve through this season. And the midfield, which was cool to see us be able to hold some possession in a 4-3-3, because typically we're in a 4-5-1, so it's really easy for us to construct in the midfield like we saw last week. But some good dynamics, and I thought some pretty solid build-up, and we got some great chances, trying to hit Cy on the crosses a couple times, I know right around that 20th minute, but there was some good build-up and some exciting stuff to be at. I feel like we have a nasty crossover of the week. In the 26th minute, Mike just totally broke somebody down. He was going against an attacker and just worked him. He dummied a through ball and then let it go for a goal kick, but it was pretty nasty, man. So I feel like we got to add it to the list, and maybe that's our little poll watch, Trent. If we want to throw that up, we're going to continue to clip these clips, and we want to give the ongoing best crossover here of the season. So we'll put that up on social media at TallySCTalk if you aren't already aware. So make sure to check that out, like, subscribe, all that junk. Shameless plug. We want to get that compilation going, and that'll be a cool little mix. So who's done it better so far, Mike, or last week when Johnny completely broke those fools down out in Panama City? But Trent kind of going into that area. We continue kind of more of the same. Some good build-up by TSC chances, and we're getting free kicks and taking care of business, but it's not like last week where I feel like we had a 4 or 5 to 1 ratio of good attacking chances that we had against the Roots. This is a little more even. Maybe every 3 chances we had, they had 2, or kind of vice versa. There were some odd bounces of the ball going on, some handballs, some different chances developing, but I felt like overall it kind of did have the feel of an even tie ball game at that point. Both teams poking and prodded, trying to figure out the movement and the rhythm of this game here in the early going. I guess kind of going into the next stage, any instances or any kind of player performances that were sticking out to you at this point here still in midway/later first half?
So just the entire first half, I thought Crombeck made a lot of great saves. I mean, he was diving and punching the ball out. He was catching him high and low, and he was throwing the ball out. There was one, I think he threw it through the center circle to Justin Laird. I mean, so he was really sparking the counterattack from the goalkeeping position, which is huge, especially when you've got that 4-3-3 formation. You can play the ball out wide and use some of that pace. So you want to get the ball up front to that forward, let him dish it out wide, run back inside, and just wait for that cross and hopefully get a shot on goal. But it was pretty even match throughout the remainder of the first half. Obviously 1-1 through the break. Yeah, I mean, I thought that the TSC kept good pressure up, not quite as well as they did against the Roots. But again, like you said, the Roots definitely didn't have quite as many chances. They were a little fewer and far between as opposed to Pensacola FC. They were definitely coming at us. Crombeck really keeping them at bay for the most part. Very back and forth game all in all throughout the first half. I thought that Johnny Fitzgerald really sparked a lot of those. They were feeding him the ball, and he was turning the ball going all the way into the attacking third. And one of those chances he had was around the 42nd minute mark, and one of my favorite chances of the half, where it was a counterattack between Cy, Levy, and Johnny Fitzgerald. And Levy ends up getting the ball inside the box, takes a shot, clearly hits off the right hand of the defender guarding him, and it just rolls right to the keeper. Keeper scoops it up. Nothing from the referee, doesn't even bat an eye. That's when somebody in the crowd, you could hear, since there wasn't any commentary on the podcast or on the stream, you could hear everybody in the crowd, and somebody yelled, "Suck it, White," to TSC, who was obviously wearing the white jerseys. And, I guess they thought that was warranted, that we deserved that for some of the calls that I guess they thought the referee had missed at that point. But what did you think about that, Jupe?
Very verbal fan base over there in Pensacola. Yeah, definitely expressing their disdain of how the calls went. We heard a lot of groaning and moans and coming from PFC faithful. And so obviously would look like a handball, could have been a PK, outstretched right arm, and we can take a screenshot of it and you can make the call of it. We'll try to go back and have that up for you on the social media. But once again, clearly hits him in the right hand and drops and just dies and rolls to the keeper. So it obviously affected the shot and the pace of play. And it wasn't his left hand, which I want to be clear, because as he's blocking the ball, Levy is turning to his right to make the shot. So the defender is playing catch up a little bit, trying to cut off the angle. If it hits his left hand within the frame of his body, I think that's clean and something that doesn't get called. That's kind of a ball to a hand situation. But when he was lunging, he stretches out his right hand, whether naturally or unnaturally, but it essentially makes the frame of his body bigger, and it's just like a goalkeeper when they try to get wide and try to cut off the angle. He's essentially acting as that ball hits him in the right wrist. I mean, it was in the forearm. It wasn't the upper arm, and as you saw, it clearly affected the shot. So definitely should have been a handball. I mean, the buildup was beautiful, and when that ball gets served in, Levy has the opportunity to play Johnny, but I think if he does play him, whether correctly or not, I think referee pulls the offside trigger because it was very close. And the way things have been going, or what we have heard about the offside calls on Saturday, I think a great decision by Levy. Go ahead, pull the trigger, go for it. But unfortunately, doesn't get the backup there. But yeah, obviously the fandom for PFC getting pretty pissed about that. That was a great chance for us, one that had us on the edge of the seat. I know as we were talking through that game, there was another good one, I think back to the 28th minute of another TSC chance. We're coming off a clearance, and Cole Red tracks it down over on the far side. And then it was Cole to Cy, back to Cole, to Johnny. And then Johnny, beautiful service in the box. Justin has, I believe, his back to goal, or he's on his left foot. But he does this beautiful turn, little half flick to himself, and then rips the shot. And it was so close, just wide of the far post for him. It was near post if you were watching the broadcast. So he's on the right side of the goal, and he just misses the left side. That was going to be nasty. Almost put us up 2-1. But it was a good response, like you said, Trent. Back and forth affair. PFC had 2 consecutive chances. They had some nice throw-ins coming in the 31st minute. Some dangerous service. A great clearance by Joey P., Joe Peralta. And he's able to help assist it to get the corner that resulted off his clearance punched out by Krumbeck. And then the 33rd, there was a beautiful cross and a rip from the top of the box, but they just totally sliced it, sailed over, and went out for a goal kick. So crisis averted there. But PFC, once again, generating those chances, Trent, which led into another one in the 36th minute that I loved. Some service from Monroe, big throw, Monroe. Desai, who controls it. Johnny over to Cole. And then attempted cross. It was going to be a beautiful one in the danger zone, blocked by the defense. Second time ball comes in by Schmoker. Cy gets it in the 6-yard box, and it just misses over the goal. Really tough. Defender was on his back, and it was just one of those lean back a little bit and just went over the bar. But another great chance generated by TSC to say, hey, this is the pressure. We're generating chances, and this is what you love to see from this club. Something that we didn't have much of match day 1 versus Jacksonville. Something that we really enjoyed from match day 2 versus the Roots is continuing to generate these chances. And, hey, man, these guys are going to start putting these in. And I think there's going to be a game where we legit bag 5 because the strike force that we have offensively and the quality that we have up top, and you can put that as a bold prediction, Trent, as I can see your eyebrows raise at the Zoom call. So whether that's of intrigue or of, man, this guy's a moron, that was close. So you have 2 sequences, very great chances, one by Cy, one by Justin. We could have been up 3-1, which would have totally changed it. But, hey, man, that's how it goes. Sometimes you don't get those bounces, but, yeah, a really back and forth affair, Trent. But, yeah, I like the crowd jeer from the fans there. But it's funny because it's almost like they're trying to create a battle, but it wasn't there because of the gas shortage. I know we brought a lot less fans than we usually do, so it wasn't like a banter between supporters group, but it was just we weren't getting any calls or we didn't like these calls, so Tallahassee, you guys can eat it. But that was just funny because it so clearly came through on the commentary, some angry dad. But I can say, Trent, from our last 2 games out west, and the fan bases won, and then the teams too, we're making no friends in the eastern part of this Gulf Coast Conference, man. None of these Florida teams, well, at least these Florida Panhandle teams, as we compete for this 850 Cup, by the way, of those 3 teams here in the 850 area code in the Florida Panhandle, of course, PFC, Florida Roots, and us. We are atop sidebar, Trent. 2 points in the 850 Cup, by the way, so no big deal. Yeah, we're not making any friends, and that will take us pretty much into halftime there. And a little situation going into halftime, Trent. What were your thoughts as we approach the end of the first half here, or any moments that stuck out to you?
Right there at the end of the first half, just 32 seconds precisely after the start of the 45th minute, that the referee blew his whistle. It was halftime. The clock on the stream was about a minute and 20 seconds ahead of the scoreboard. So there were still 40 seconds left in the half, according to that scoreboard, according to our calculations here at TallySCtalk. So just kind of crazy how we keep getting screwed out of these precious seconds and minutes in stoppage time. I mean, obviously that could work in our disadvantage. Might not be beneficial, but still, you know, we think that we're a team that has momentum and we're just looking for one more chance and we're just one goal away in all these matches and like to see them out there for a little bit longer if at all possible.
There you go. As that was a circumstance, we continue to bring this up. Referees trying to get out of there once again to get into the halftime break. But like you said, 40 seconds left in the half. You saw it up on the scoreboard and something that the players brought up, and you heard them talking to the referees about it. But once again, can't be done. Also keeping in mind that there were 2 goals and that 2-minute substitution injury on the corner kick. So in and of itself, right there in a vacuum, Trent, that's at least 2.5, 3 minutes that could have been on to this one. Of course, whatever, in the first half. So there was a couple chances from both sides, even in that 45th minute, Trent. You saw TSC having good pressure, able to create a turnover, get it in. Justin with a shot on target, very, very, very close. But both sides having an opportunity right before the break, and one of these teams could have snuck one in. But we'll go to the break, 1-1, halftime. Trent, what's your mood? What are you feeling at the game as a fan? Dissecting the game, do you have a winner of the first half, a loser of the first half, big impressions, or just what's your state of mind when you're watching back there on Saturday?
Yeah, Jupe. So I thought overall the first half was pretty fairly even. 1-1 was a fair reflection of the game, I thought. Obviously, back to that one shot with Levy in the box where the defender sticks his right hand out. That could have easily been a penalty. We could have been tied 2-1, like we said. So, that felt just a little so slightly unfair. But again, with handballs, it's kind of hit or miss in the NPSL. I think we've realized, at least you and I have, I don't know about everybody at home, but even when, like you said, hand to ball to hand, even when your hand goes to ball, it's not always called necessarily, but it is what it is. It's just a part of the game. You can't blame anything on refereeing, nor are we trying to blame any referees for our outcomes. We know that we need to be just a little more crucial in the attack and in the finishing department. But as we're about to see, we definitely nabbed a couple goals back here in the second half. But yeah, first half as a total, I thought that was a fair 1-1 reflection.
For sure. And then, of course, for the first time ever, we'll go into the break with a scoreline tied. Of course, we were tied 1-1, like we said. Week one, we trailed 2-1 versus Jacksonville, and then match day 2, we trailed 3-2 going into the break against the Roots. So this was a unique circumstance. Once again, starting a fresh 45, not falling behind. And so PFC able to kick things off, get us going from the mindset. We had a good build-up coming out of the break. We get a little fresh blood coming in as well. 51st minute, Cameron Earls is going to be subbed in. He'll take off Justin Laird. So a nice little attacking move there, attacking swap, bring in the youngster. And then we kind of got a couple more sequences. After Earls comes in, once again, continued the attack. We're able to fold him in nicely. 52nd minute, Trent, I know is something that you love, that you talked about, and you kind of heard some oohs and ahs from the crowd. But what went down on one of these offensive attacks from TSC?
Yeah, man. Back to our crossover of the game, season, whatever it's going to be. Levy can be considered up there for all of it with this one. He had a disgusting step over there in the 52nd minute. Joe Peralta headed the ball out off a long ball. Ball comes to Johnny, and then Johnny passes it to December. Crossed in a really dangerous ball and tried to pick out Ty, but the keeper dove out and corralled the cross, unfortunately. But yeah, Cy was in great position. If the keeper was hesitant at all, Cy would have had a goal for sure. Would have been back-to-back goals for cousin Cy. Fortunately, it doesn't work out that way, but still, just great build-up play. Amazing move from Levy just to free himself from the defenders and get the ball off. So very promising build up there in the 52nd minute.
Great save by the keeper there on the other side for PFC, to be honest. Like you said, Cousin Cy was in perfect position to blast that one in to the back of the net. He comes out, and then it was funny, right on the other side, which led to a counterattack. Very similar situation on the other side. Krembeck diving out and punching out a ball off a PFC chance to result in a corner for them, and we're able to clear, long story short. But just once again, talk about the even nature of the teams kind of feeling each other out in that regard, but equaling each other out as well here as we get into the 50-55 minute. Just a thing of note, or something funny, there was a throw-in debacle, which I had labeled in the 56 minute. Smoke getting ready to throw it in and gives it to Red, and then PFC is complaining about it after the ball is thrown in, and so they get him to back up. TSC goes ahead and throws it again. And then there was number 7 on PFC, tries to block Cole Red's throw in like a basketball shot. And so he legitimately jumps up like he's Dikembe Mutombo, takes a swipe at it, obviously misses, humorously so. But then the ref calls it back and says Red has to throw the ball in after a conference with number 11 on PFC. And then once that's getting thrown back, they thought the possession would change and PFC would have the throw. Not the case. Cole Ray goes and throws it again, and you just yell the camera guy, yell, what? It was a complete outrage. One of the limited play-by-play that we had from anybody on the TSC side, but it was just a very humorous situation. But once again, kind of in a spell, and I feel like TSC started to get the front foot a little bit here, but they were starting to get some chatter, and it was starting to get chippy a little bit in the second half, and our captain, was making sure the general on the field wanted to instill a mood, and so he was making sure the PFC guys weren't out of line. He's sticking up for the boys, which you love in your captain, getting up there. But once again, some more chances, but I felt like what had been kind of even back and forth, maybe TSC takes a little bit of advantage going into kind of that 60th minute. Any thoughts opening up here in the second half, Trent?
Yeah, Jupe, nothing really that stood out a whole lot in the second half other than those two chances we talked about. They're back-to-back with the saves from the keepers. But there in the 61st minute, we actually did have our third goal of the contest, unfortunately, scored by PFC. And that was where the ball was kind of sent down the sideline, played through to an attacking midfield player. He runs onto it. I don't know if he even took a touch. He just kind of sets himself up, takes a rips it right at Kronbeck. He goes back post number 7 for Pensacola, just comes onto the ball, rips it with his left foot, curves it into the back post, left to right. Kronbeck obviously dives to his right, expecting the ball just to be ripped near post. So very unlucky there, but still a really good save from Kronbeck. Initially, just didn't have anybody backside to recover the ball, to clear the ball out of play. So good play, just goes unrewarded, unfortunately.
One of those circumstances, it's just right place at the right time. And the guy for PFC was able to get it in off the back post, like you're saying. He comes in late on the second wave of the attack and buries it. And like we said, good save by Kronbeck. The only thing is I think at this point he kind of comes up messing with his finger a little bit. This may have been the play. I know it was talked about that Kronbeck potentially injured his hand, and so they were thinking about bringing in the youngster, Tyler Sloan, which they kind of hyped up before then. Of course, the 16-year-old on the team here, making the 18 this week, is part of the youth movement. Not as an aside, very, very young team this week, but it was an interesting situation. But yeah, like we said, unfortunate, and that got him rolling. We're kind of pushing through after this. Some missed handballs that we have. I felt like there were like 4 or 5 handballs in the first 15 to 20 minutes of the second half that they were letting go. But once again, some more build-up. We saw ball from Monroe almost hit Levy that could have almost resulted in a chance. But once again, service from Monroe and Levy in the air like he has. It seems every single game having some great efforts to get high and get on top of these services. Had some free kicks, and there was a funny moment once again. We heard from the PFC fan about 66 minutes in. They were super pissed because, Southern Side plays a scrappy physical style on the attack, and so there was a PFC guy that takes down Cy. The one guy from the PFC fan yells, "After everything he's done," even if it was an egregious foul. The side no longer has the right, evidently, to be called fouls upon, and so that was funny. But yeah, that was a good call, first of all, because number 8 wins the ball from PFC, but he follows through studs up, Trent, and anytime you flash those studs, man, you're going to get called for a free kick, and then you're probably going to get a card as well, which he gets the yellow card tagged onto him. But, that's soccer. That's one of the basics. You show the studs, you're going to get burned. Even if you win the tackle, because he still takes Cy out, studs up to the ankle. So that is a foul. Just because you win the ball does not mean you're exempt. You can't go win the ball and just sock somebody in the face and use that as an excuse. So just wanted to do a thing of note. But once again, the PFC faithful, they were coming in loud and clear on that feed in some of these instances of outrage. Once again, TSC responding, and I think that was big. We saw after the first goal in the 3rd minute responding, boom, 4 minutes later we were able to put in a goal, but you see TSC chance after the free kick. They also had another one that Levy puts on target, if not for a sprawling keeper save, results in another corner and required another save by the keeper, so we're staying on it. Johnny, Cy, Cameron had a nice look up here in the 68th minute, and we get a corner. Unfortunately, they clear it successfully, but what you wanted to see here from TSC is a continued response after adversity, something we've seen time and time again after all season long. And once again, one reason why we love to root for this club, faithful supporters, Trent, of this club, is they fight and they never say die, man. They're like the Goonies. What do we have here? Kind of the next phase is because once again, we're crescendoing, we're building. It's like the market, the numbers are up. Our Bitcoin TSC stock is rising. And then all of a sudden, just like everything, what comes up must come down. Physics, gravity, my man. Then what's up?
And then the bottom falls out, man. Then we're down 3-1 in the 70th minute. It was just a clean 4-on-3, 4-on-4 break, couple of passes outside, and then one back across the face of the goal. Peralta puts his hand up, is hoping that it's offside. I paused it right as the ball was played, and it was fractionally close, but unfortunately, he did appear to be just onside. Peralta keeping him on. It was so close, man. A game of inches. Yeah, it was another goal there in the 70th minute for Pensacola. Now we're down 3-1. Things are looking a little bleak here for the Battle Lions, unfortunately. But again, a lot of obstacles against us. You know, I was feeling a little somber, but just to be out there, getting the game in, despite not having a coach, despite not having gas, all of this stuff, and we're still playing out there. But, you know, at that point, intensity really started to pick up right after that goal in the 71st minute. Definitely weren't feeling sorry for ourselves. We were out there. We drove out to Pensacola for a reason. We're there to play soccer. We're going to try to get a result. Even if it's just a point, if we can get 2 back, we can get a point and save at least Pensacola FC from getting 3 points from us. That's exactly what happened just a couple minutes later here in the 76th. Tell us how the Battle Lions began to mount that comeback.
Before we get back into this, Trent, I got a couple questions for you. One, on that third goal, obviously offside was a little close for those who were watching the FA Cup Championship. Obviously a very instance of a VAR scandalous situation, Trent. So you're telling me if we had VAR, we wouldn't be looking at like a shoulder blade of an offside, referencing back to that Leicester-Chelsea game?
I mean, okay, if we have VAR, which we don't at the NPSL, it's a whole nother story, but yeah, I mean, just to reference that, it's quite possible, but it looked from the naked eye that he was onside. But again, VAR is not the naked eye. It's the eye in the sky that sees all.
There you go. Or the eye of the referee. Yeah, at this point, but it was interesting to see on the feed, or lack of being able to see on the feed, because that's the thing. We didn't have a very good angle, and we've referenced back the camera work of what we've had going on. It was an interesting ordeal. Second question I had, Trent, is I just want to play devil's advocate there. On the other side, on the road, 70th minute reality, did it really start to set in that, man, we went out there and it just seemed like a couple cheap goals, kind of like against the Roots, that they were able to bury in, and so we find ourselves down 2 goals. I know you said it went a little down for you a little bit, feeling emotionally, as I'm sure everyone watching that away feed, whether you're at Proof watching the game or at home or on away, wherever you may be. But after that 3-1, did it start to settle in for you a little bit that, man, I can't believe we're going to lose here on the road?
So for me personally, it felt like it was Charles Dickens, A Tale of Two Cities. It was the best of times because here we are. Yeah, we're down, but we've got reinforcements coming. We've got all these substitutes we can make. We've got a 4-3-3. We're going to throw the kitchen sink at them. We're going to get some goals. So we've seen it happen already in the past with the Florida Roots game, even late in the Jacksonville Armada game. So as a Tallahassee fan, that was exciting to see, you know, what could possibly happen. But, you know, of course, at the same time, reality is setting in a little bit. Only 20 minutes left. Could easily see us walking away with 0 points. That's what I expected. But deep down, the underdog in me, the battle line in me, was hoping for 3, maybe to get a 4th goal and steal 3 points. But I knew that was probably going to be quite impossible. But yeah, we got the first one back there in the 76th minute. We do get that goal from Cameron Earls, and it kind of restored hope, kind of lifted everyone's spirits. That was probably the most anticlimactic goal I've ever seen because it took so long for him to finally put the ball in the net. I mean, the ball's played forward. He just kicks it around the goalie. And I remember talking to you about this play. You said you don't even think that Earls touched the goalie at all. You don't think they collided at all. It was just a clean poke around him. He goes and corrals the ball right at the touch line. takes one or two dribbles right in front of the face of the goal and then just rips it in the back of the net, grabs it and runs it back to midfield. So, that was pretty cool to see that. Kind of just, it seemed a little unlucky, but as we went and we broke it down and we replayed it, slowed it down and everything, it was just a phenomenal football play from Cameron Earls, who just joined the team, if I'm not mistaken, this week. This is his first match and, already leaving his mark, his impact on the game.
That he did, Trent, absolutely. And that was one thing, of course, that was the payoff for the payday of what you saw the answer of after the 72nd minute. When we do go down 2 goals, 3-1 now, the intensity picked up, and that's one thing I wanted to see. What's the body language? No slumping shoulders, no heads at the ground, no negative body language. It was, well, you heard it on the camera feed, you were too. It's like, let's go, let's get it going, come on. And they were rallying up, and there was a rallying of the troops there. And then you got some fresh blood in. You had an aggressive win by Cy right after that second goal. TSC subs, Bennett Mitchell, Christian Winnutt going to come in for TSC into the picture. Red and Wimberly are done for the day. But once again, going forward and the aggressive play and the mindset of attack, let's win. It's never over until it's over. Like you said, once again, that's just a heavy touch from the keeper. And who's waiting? Like you said, Cameron Earls waiting for the action and talking to him, and this is maybe kind of a little spoiler of the interrogation of interest coming up this week, but he said that he didn't touch the keeper. The keeper just kind of faked himself out. He ate it, and the ball was still in bounds, and so Cameron Earls just turned it back into face and legit just dunked it, and he said probably, if not the easiest, one of the easiest goals that he's ever scored. Very little went into that one, but hey, man, gets it right where we want us, 3-2, and what we thought was the last nail in the coffin, 6 minutes later, boom, gets it back to a 1-goal game, get a couple more substitutions into the mix, Drew Daunt and Corey Osgood coming in the 83rd minute, but Trent, I say if we had any feelings of doubt, 1, those were definitely decreased, and 2, that underdog in you started to turn into a wolf, man. The passion was kind of rising back, and you're like, hey, these guys are going forward. We got this. Our battle line's in a great position. Coming forward, some new substitutions into the mix as well. You know how those late super subs do here in this team, man. You know somebody's going to try to get after it. Down 3-2 at this point. Trent, take us after those subs and going forward down the stretch.
Yeah, Jupe. So coming down the stretch here, we had a couple of chances. One where there was a free kick just inside midfield in the 92nd minute, 91-15, right here before Cranbeck takes it. There was kind of a malfunction, a glitch in the matrix, where the cameraman for Pensacola, I guess, was just so enamored with what was happening, thinking, that it was possible for Tallahassee to tie the game, which we did. He just takes his hands off the camera and isn't even paying attention to that camera feed, is just focused on the game at hand. Anyhow, so we have no idea really what happened, but Cranbeck sends the ball in. I hear a groan from a crowd. There's a point added for Tallahassee scoreline. It's 3-3, and then the camera moves as the ball is getting put back in midfield. We find out via Twitter, Jacob Schmoker, at the same time as this play occurs, gets a red card, a straight red. So he's automatically out for the next game. And, I mean, just crazy stuff. The one time that you need the camera on the action, it doesn't happen. So, I mean, since none of you were there, most likely, at least most of you listening, I'm sure, weren't there, since Pensacola is pretty far away. I wasn't there. Jupe, you weren't there. I think we should just do a little speculation on what actually occurred that night. So for me, I think that Cranbeck, so it was Christian Winnutt, actually, I should say. I don't know if I said that. Christian Winnutt is who got the goal. Jacob Smoker got the red card. Yeah, so I'm going to speculate that when Cranbeck serviced the ball in, that Christian Winnutt climbs up David Monroe's back, does a bicycle kick whilst jumping off of Monroe, bam, top 90, back of the net. That's how the goal was scored. Then immediately after that, Schmoker follows suit, climbs up Monroe again, does the people's elbow onto the fallen Pensacola player, thus resulting in the straight red. That is what I speculate had happened last Saturday in Pensacola. Jupe, what do you think happened, my friend?
Trent, given that scenario, I'd say there's no better situation that could have gone down of something that we could have potentially seen or that we did not see. And obviously, this is all conjecture because who actually knows? Maybe one of the 100 people that were there in attendance or on either teams could lend that spotlight. But, yeah, I think it would have been a pretty awesome way to get tossed from a game, if we're being honest. Maybe presented some of the outrage that you had from the PSC fans as they legitimately yelled, and once again hearing on the camera clearly, there's a player on the ground, there's a player on the ground. And so that was one thing that led to it. I think, first of all, potentially making Monroe the greatest setup man ever to assist both a second story bicycle kick game winner, or game tire, and setting up a people's elbow, which resulted in the red card. And so if this was a criminal pursuit, Monroe would get in on a second degree, or you'd think he'd get a yellow card on one of these mixes. So I think in this benefit, TSC only picking up a red, captain once again kind of falling on the sword there. Monroe not picking up a yellow, I say good to go, man. So we get out of there pretty clean. We go down to 10 men, but who cares? We know how to play defense. We're tied 3-3. But once again, complaining about the referees or TSC or the calls there, if there's a player on the ground and the ball is stopped, it is not the responsibility of TSC to hold up play. That is the referee's duty. He is one of ones that can hold up play if he discerns that it is a serious infraction. And Trent, we can get into the weeds a little bit if you want, talking about those unwritten rules that the Sporting has as far as players down and all that. But there is no rulebook burden of TSC to do that, because I think a lot of the fans from PFC were directing those comments at the TSC players as, why are you guys playing on? But the referee gave him the green light, and when the ref says go and then the ref does not blow the whistle, you go after the whistle, and then you go until you hear the other whistle. That's what TSC was doing. So good on you, boys. We were able to tie it up, save it from the depth, and shortly later, we've got a good solid 6 minutes of stoppage time, Trent. I remember we were talking as we were going through the game, and if we get 30 seconds or 40 seconds, whatever it was last week versus the Roots, again, here in stoppage time, we're going to lose our minds. Because, you had the red card, you had 4 second-half goals, and then you had a number of other stoppages coming through. So there was no way we were getting that 46 seconds. And factoring in that the 40-second shortage in the first half, we were definitely going to get paid with some stoppage time here. So we were hoping we could get one more in those final 4 minutes. Of course, we got the goal in the 90-minute plus 2 points in stoppage time. So 4 more minutes to cash it in. But get out of there with the tie. Trent, we talked about the emotions at halftime being level. We talked about the emotions going 3-1, and then the emotions being 3-1, and then coming back here 26 minutes later after full time, once again on level terms. Wrap it up for us. Game recap, thoughts, reactions after the final whistle blows.
Yeah, just going back real quick to what you were saying about the fans being a little disgruntled with TSC for playing on. As we've said, we're only getting 30, 40 seconds of stoppage time. We're lucky it's 91-15 at this point, We're lucky we've got over a minute. So that's just not our responsibility. We're down a goal. We're trying to get a point on the road. Like you said, referee doesn't blow his whistle, we're not stopping. So we send the ball. If there's somebody on the ground in that situation, the play hasn't even begun. I don't know how he would get on the ground. Of course, we don't know because of the suspect camera work there at that point. You just think that that's probably some time wasting, milking of the clock, falling on the ground, trying to get the referee to blow his whistle so they can kind of get a first glimpse as to the play that TSC is going to run inside the box. So I thought that as a whole, like you said, it was certainly an emotional roller coaster. It was a great match, especially there in the last 15, 20 minutes. The intensity was high, again, from Tallahassee, playing in a new formation with a few new faces. You take away all of those derivatives and you still get a point on the road in Pensacola in the 850 Cup, which vaults us to first place in the 850 Cup with now 2 points. So, yeah, just a great match out on the road last Saturday and something to build off of, I think.
Indeed. Nothing to be disappointed about, absolutely, especially the way it went down, Trent. So it's kind of a frustrated optimism and excited contentment, I guess, because you look at the point and what we saw on Friday, like, man, I wish we could have had that win. But you are down 2 goals in the final 20 minutes and you're able to resurrect that one and gain a point. That's some big-time stuff. So proud of the boys and loving the effort, and I'm okay with that. Like you said, we're leading the A50 Cup, so we're trying to get that trophy going. Evidently, it will happen, and we have gotten word that the trophy is in the making. So whether the other teams want to play along or not, TSC is definitely going forward that they will be awarding a cup. So like you said, we're still averaging 1 point a game. We have 2 points at the top of the table. We have played both the other teams in Pensacola FC and Florida Roots. So 6 goals scored in those contests, man. So when we get down to head-to-head matchups or goals for if goal differential becomes a tiebreaker, obviously we've also allowed 6 goals in those games, but so we're sitting at the 0 goal differential. But if those tiered tiebreakers, man, we get down to the 3rd and 4th tiebreaker, we got these fools. 6 goals in the A50 Cup. Also, like you said, jumping to 5th in the table by the time the rest of the results came in to play. So still in that playoff conversation. I'm loving that. And so that'll pretty much be the match, man. That's our little match recap or what we thought was going on here on the TallySCtalk. So let's transition, Trent. You know, of course, after a good game, we have to give our shout-outs for our players of the game or our stars of the game. As we like to say, Trent.
Star attraction. Star.
The stars of the game here for TSC.
Star attraction.
So, to keep some consistency, we're going to go from bottom to top. Give me your 1-star man of the match.
Absolutely, Andrew Joop. My 1-star man of the match would be your own man between the posts, man between the sticks, between the pipes, whatever you want to call him, Brandon Krembeck. So he definitely gave up a penalty kick early. There's no fault in him for that. Just trying to get the ball out of there, and the player just kind of sold it, made him slide him, I'm going to go ahead and say. But, he actually was coming out, diving saves, punching out crosses, throwing the ball to midfield, great kicks. I mean, Krembeck is just a great goalkeeper. And obviously he has to be holding off the rest of these keepers we have on the roster. Like you said, 16-year-old, Tyler Sloan on the team. We had Oscar playing in the last match against the Roots. So, we've got some great keepers on this roster, but I'm going to go with Krembeck for my 1-star man of the match.
No argument for yours, Trent. Of course, with Krembeck, some phenomenal saves, especially in the later parts of the second half, and the later parts of the first half as well, keeping us in the grind there, making sure we were staying in striking distance. For my 3-star guy, I got to go Mike some more. Like we talked about the nasty crossover. One guy I feel like that goes under the radar a lot here on the defensive side. You think about it, that's one of those selfless positions that limiting the offense and trying to start the counterattacks, but some beautiful service, some nice moves, some great canceling out. They had some tricky players up top, but I feel like Mike, regardless of who he was on, depending on those runs and those crosses, came up big time. So I got to give him a shout out. He's my 1-star guy, man of the match on the defensive line. I'll jump in as we bump up or do our little snake here. So I'll get my 2-star guy, and then you'll get your top 2 here. My 2-star guy is going to be Christian Winnuck. Solid performance, of course. He had the, quote, mythical goal, end quote. We did not see it, but we were told in interviewing in our Interrogation of Interest, Cameron Earls, he said it was an absolute gorgeous header on the finish and a key goal for us to get back to that level playing field of 3-3, to get the point and go back to Tallahassee with a full tank of gas and able to get back there with a happy ride home. So give my 2-star to Christian Winnuck, scoring in stoppage time. It is the second goal so far scored by TSC in just 3 matches that occurs in the 89th minute or later. These are some finishers, Trent. Finishing the job, my man. 3rd goal that's scored in the 75th minute or later so far this season. So an adventurous, scrappy young bunch. So 2 stars to Christian Winnuck.
All right, Juke. Another one that I thought performed excellent, not just this past game, but really the whole season, was Joseph Peralta. He's a center back here for Tallahassee, and he has played, I believe, 90 minutes in either almost every match or every match we've had so far. I mean, he has been a workhorse out there. He actually was named to the ISN Soccer Football Manager Team of the Week for the first week of the 2021 season in the MPSL. So it's not just coaches and players here at the club fans who recognize Joseph Peralta, but he is getting recognition from across the league now at this point. And I believe he was also, if I'm not mistaken, awarded the man of the match by Tallahassee following the game on Saturday against Pensacola. So just a great showing from Peralta. I mean, very crucial in the defense. That's why he is my 2-star man. So my number 1 3-star man of the match day 3, would be Johnny Be Good Fitzgerald, one of our favorites here on the podcast. I mean, this kid is relentless in his dribbling and his passing and his attacking and his defending. I mean, he is not the biggest guy out there, but he plays huge. I mean, he is in on every challenge, getting the ball, turning it upfield, keeping his head up, trying to find the right player to pick out so he can get an assist, or maybe even dart past his defender right after that and poke in the goal. So, I mean, we've seen now Johnny's had a goal or an assist in the first 10 minutes of the last 2 matches, the only 2 matches he's been a part of this team. So he is a huge catalyst on offense and really just a vital cog of this whole operation here in Tallahassee.
There's nothing about the top 2 here that I can complain about for you, man. Like you said, Joey P winning not only the TSC head man of the match there, but also getting recognized for the MPSL team. So big deal, of course. I'm going to go with my top 1. Give me Cameron, Killer Cam, as they like to call him, Earls, the journeyman. If you catch the Interrogation of Interest coming up a little later, or you've heard the stories around this team, I'll go ahead and double up. So if you heard it, I don't care. We're going to give it to you one more time. He graduates from Piedmont College on the Friday, the day before the game up there in Georgia. He drives down, comes back for the game, and goes out to Pensacola, comes back. This is his first game, first interaction within the season of this team. And then he goes out, comes in as a super substitute, puts it in, gets that crucial second goal to get us back in this ball game, and punches it in. So, of course, I got to give my 3-star man of the match to Cameron Earls, but a great performance and just a crazy sequence for him as far as traveling and commuting. And I talked to him after practice on Tuesday, and he said he's still recovering. So he said he's going to have to get a good night's sleep before the game. But, of course, moving into his new place in Tallahassee, so a total upheaval throughout all the chaos, he's able to come through and do some big things for the squad. So cool to see, and some big-time stuff for Cameron Earls, why I have to give him a 3-star man of the match. So shout-out to Johnny Fitzgerald, Cameron Earls, Brandon Karenbeck, Christian Winuk, Joey Peralta, and Mike Zamore. Those are our stars of the game versus Pensacola, match week 3.
Star attraction.
A loaded next part of the podcast here before we kick off on Saturday versus Southern States. We're going to have our Interrogation of Interest with Cameron Earls. We'll have the Mailbag segment, and we have a couple more special surprises for you, a little bit of intel, and a little bit of different content coming through. So make sure you check us out on social media at TallySCTalk, Facebook, Instagram, and more. You can see all the information you need to know. Catch up on all podcast episodes, as now we're at 7+ here in our podcasting network. Or search TallySCTalk on any of your podcasting providers to get in on that action. Of course, as always, if you want to be a part of the Mailbag segment coming up, go ahead and throw us an email, TallySCTalk@gmail.com, or just to get in touch with us. Future interviews, future segments, we'd love to get in on all of that. Once again, podcast for the people of the TSC community, not just for us. We're going to dive right into the Mailbag.
You got some mail.
Oh, mail's here.
What? Have you ever seen a mailroom?
If you want to be part of the Mailbag segment, or have your question answered, or something of conversation, or people we need to talk to, or issues we need to talk about, hit us up, TallySCTalk@gmail.com. Tally, short for Tallahassee, SC, talk, TallySCTalk@gmail.com, and we'll make sure to get back to you, and your question could even get on the air here for the TallySC Talk podcast. So, with no other time to waste, Trent, with a long introduction here, my man, we'll first get you onto the board. The question here that was posed was, of course, with the red card coming from Schmoker in late stages of the game versus Pensacola, which we did not see, what does that mean for the team, and what will it affect, if any, you think, coming forward into this one? That, of course, was a rephrase, but I'm just trying to encapsulate all angles of the question there for the TallySCtalk mailbag. So thank you for the submission. And what do you think, Trent?
Of course, Jupe. So I think that obviously Jacob Schmoker is going to miss this game. So there's going to be a hole we have to fill in the midfield. So I think that Wimberly is going to stay put in his center defensive spot. That's kind of where he's been the entire season. I don't think that's going to change at all. Johnny Fitzgerald is going to stay in the midfield, playing off of whoever's filling in for Schmoker. And I think that player is actually going to be Mateus Bittencourt. I think this game back in Tallahassee this Saturday, I think that this is the perfect opportunity for him to come in. I think that he would have a lot of really good chemistry with Johnny, with Wimberly. He can play kind of that Schmoker role, or even Fitzgerald can drop into that Schmoker role. We see him taking a lot of set pieces already. So he could just be de facto Jacob Schmoker Jr., Johnny Fitzgerald out there, and then Bittencourt can come over and be the new Johnny Fitzgerald. And he's very quick. He's got an explosive touch as well. So I could definitely see that working. So I anticipate that Coach Bruno will deploy them either in that same 4-3-3 with those three central players right there holding up the midfield, or we can go back to that 4-2-3-1 or the 4-5-1 where it's kind of a little bit more spread out throughout the midfield. But still, I think that Fitzgerald, Bittencourt, I think those guys are going to have a huge part in the team. Maybe we can see a little Cole Red. Maybe we can see a little Lucas Redding come in and kind of, stopgap, move and experiment with the formations. But what about you, Jupe? How do you think we will bounce back from that Schmoker red card this past week?
Very good question. And once again, shout out to the mailbag for producing that. Trent, I think, as you talked about, at least from my point of view, Schmoker's impact obviously on the field is great, and you can make adjustments on the field for the positions. But I think the large part that he brings to this team, not only just his aggressiveness and play as far as a distributor, and takes a lot of the free kicks with Johnny, like we said, both corners and ones in field, the intangibles, because he is your captain, he is your leader, he is your calm head, but he's also the energizer, he's the enforcer back there, and he's also laying down the law. So who's going to step up in his wake to be able to produce kind of that role that we're looking for? Because I think his void goes beyond position, and not to discount anybody else's. Nobody else is just a pawn on the table for like a chessboard of this team, but there's a reason why he's a captain, Trent, and you hear him, he's very vocal, very directive, even in practice, since they know he wouldn't be playing this week with, of course, the game that he has to sit out. He was working with the twos and very instructive and very, once again, his same role that he was using on Saturdays is the role that he's coaching these guys up in practice. And, of course, the coach himself makes it easy, but he is that coach on the field. He is that field general, and so I think his impact stretches a little farther than that. You can cover it up with a team and switch the formation around, but yeah, I like the 4-5-1 with our personnel, and so you could flex a couple different options in there. Of course, like you said, Christian or Cole. I think if you're looking for a straight-up switch to get somebody in the defensive midfield that's aggressive and an attacker, I think Cole Red would be one of your easiest kind of plug and play. But if you want to move a couple other positions around, I think you have some other options. If you wanted to pull maybe Wimberly into that role, or maybe flex Mike up a little bit and have him play a little midfield. He's got some quality touch and he can facilitate and serve, and he's also aggressive. And then maybe you could slide somebody back defensively to fill in for where Mike would be on the outside. But I think you have a couple options that you can work with. It will be interesting to see what they work around and what Coach Bruno comes up with. But yeah, to me at least, I think the intangibles are the biggest loss for Smoke not being there on Saturday, and especially in a big-time game that you have against Southern States. Once again, a great question and something that will definitely have to be handled. And in a game that's going to be high energy, high octane, can you get to that level, and how do you keep a level head about you without your field general enforcer? And whether he's in the stands or on the field crew, Trent, he'll be very closely involved with the game on Saturday, despite not being able to be in the 18. But I'm sure we'll hear his voice pipe through, or if you're close to the field, you'll definitely be able to hear Schmoker's opinions being made heard. And so we'll go ahead and close up the mailbag. But once again, thank you for coming aboard with us there. if you want to get interested in, once again, plug that mailbag, baby, TallySCtalk at gmail.com. We'd love to field your questions, comments, and concerns.
You got some mail.
Oh, mail's here.
But have you ever seen a mailroom?
So now we've been into the mailbag. Let's go to a little bit of a new segment, something we're going to try out here. If we like it, we'll stay with it. If we don't, we'll bag it. If you guys think it sucks, then we might kill it, maybe or maybe not. So to be determined, but it was an interesting scenario that we have here before us because we're one of the leading goal scorers in the league. As a team, we have 7 goals, but we have 7 different goal scorers. We thought we had somebody double up, and we thought Cameron Earls had a second goal late in that game, but then we had a correction that it was indeed Christian Winuk. So we've seen 7 different goals here throughout the course of the season. So it makes you wonder, Trent, who is next? People that have been in: Cole Red, Cy Fontenot, David Monroe, Jacob Schmoker, Christian Winuk, Cameron Earls, and Johnny B. Good, Fitzgerald, Trent. So 7 up, 7 down. So I'll pose you the question, Trent, of who's next is what we can title this segment.
Who's next? And who are you going to be sitting next to?
Guys who want it all. Chicas, champagne, flash.
Who's next?
You're next.
Who's next to get the 8th player to get our 8th goal, or who's next and will be the first player to double up and repeat with a goal, man? Who are the men on your strike board?
It's tough to say, but I think I'm going to go ahead and go with Levy Nasimba. And I say it's tough because there's so many qualified candidates, not because the inverse. But Levy is just, he's had shots in every game. He can do it with either foot. He can jump up in the air, head the ball very well. Just got a little unlucky, some good saves from goalies, some balls just drifting wide of the posts in the net. So I think Levy Nasimba, he is a hard worker. He's going to play either 90 minutes or near 90 minutes every match. He's always playing either out wide, centrally, or up top. So he's always in a situation where he can bag a goal. I think it's just going to be inevitable at some point here on Saturday. He's going to get his first. And then I would also go with either somebody like Cy or Johnny to be the second player, or the first player to score their second goal, I should say. They're always up there in the attack. They've had plenty of chances. Cy's got a goal. He should have 10 by now. Johnny's got a goal and an assist in just 2 games, so you could easily see him getting it as well. So definitely a lot of players who are going to be up next. But for now, my hands down, no hesitation answer, Levy Nasimba. What about you, Jupe? Who do you think is up next for your battle lines?
Who's next?
Oh, a little bit of a wild one there, Trent. Of course, naming everybody on potentially in the repeats. Oh, maybe Cy or Johnny or David or Jacob or Christian or Cameron as he rattles them all off. And so he goes off with those. But yeah, you can't argue with Levy, man. And we talked about it in the last podcast as far as him. I feel like once he hits one, he's just going to start wrecking shop, and it's going to be one after the other after the other. So he's a great choice. I love that. Talk about your secondary ones. Can't argue with that either. Those are guys facilitating constantly in the mix and the goal-scoring threat. For me, I'm going to go wild card. Was back at practice this week. I don't know if he's gotten the full clear, but give me Corey Davis. He's my who's next. A little bit of a wild card. So, of course, if he's not in the 18, which means he's not healthy this week, that will, of course, look like a terrible pick because it will obviously not happen. But if he is in, give me Corey. Had a great practice on Tuesday. Really excited for him to get back in the fold. That'll be exciting. I'm definitely looking forward to it. As far as double-ups on the question, Trent, who's going to be the first one to get their repeat goal? Give me, I know we love those set plays, man. Give me the youngster, David Monroe, winning a ball in the air to double up and get the second. So he's my leading repeat candidate goal, maybe off of a set piece, a corner late in the game. You know, he's pushing up, getting in the mix, and burying it in for there. So those are my inputs, Trent, here for the who's next or who's up next, whatever you want to call it. But potential goal scorers coming up here for TSC.
I'm going to tell Cousin Cy you said that, and we'll see who gets a Christmas card this year.
There you go, man. You should already be on the list, right? Keeping it in the
I'm
family.
No, I mean, you're going to get taken off the list. I got you on the list as well. He's going to take you off of there for putting that love on David Monroe and not on Son.
There you go. I get it. I feel it. Understand. I appreciate you getting me that +1, Trent. Pulling that familial clout. Yeah, it'll be interesting to look forward. But let us know if you have some input, whether it's on social media at TallySCTalk, on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, all that good noise. But then also in the mailbag segment, TallySCTalk. You know I'm going to be plugging that at gmail.com. So that'll do it all for us on the Who's Next segment.
Who's next? And who are you going to be sitting next to?
Guys who want it all. Chicas, champagne, flash.
Who's next? You're next!
And so we can transition into a next news segment that we have coming up, Trent. Once again, something just to kind of pop some info and do a little information dump that necessarily doesn't fit elsewhere, but we got to make sure you, the TSC soccer supporting community, are aware of the happenings. Trent, tell us a little bit about what we have coming up.
Yeah, Jude, this is going to be kind of like an injury and news segment.
I got excited. I just wanted to shout it from on top of a mountain.
Our job is to report the news, not fabricate it.
Now, I don't know if this is the kind of hard-hitting news you're used to covering.
News team! Assemble!
You know, we got a player returning from college or from out of town or an injury or anything of that nature. We will go ahead and break it down and just see how they are going to contribute to the team once they're back in the fold again. So just off the top of the head, first player you mentioned just a second ago, Kari Davis, he's supposed to be back. He's practicing at full capacity. So we don't know if he's going to play, if he's even going to be a part of the 18. But as we speculated, just talking between the two of us, if he's on that 18-man roster, we are going to get Kari Davis in that match. So hopefully he can make his first appearance Saturday. We wish him a speedy recovery. We know he's almost back. So hopefully this is the beginning of the end for the rest of the league. Kari Davis is going to come blast all the goals home, and we're vaulting to first place. But, yeah, that's the first injury I had. Any other injuries or news that you know of at this time, Andrew Jupe?
Yeah, once again, like we said, a little unsure of the Kari situation. He was practicing full. We don't know if it's a full contact clearance. Of course, coming off that high ankle sprain, have not seen him yet this season as far as in a game or on the 18. But like you said, if he's on the 18, he's definitely getting into the match. He's explosive, and he's a versatile player you can put offensively or defensively, depending where your needs are. And maybe he's a player that can contribute and help fill in for that Schmoker absence here this week. As far as another note of noise or news or whatever you want to call it, injury update, we know we speculated about the Drew Daunt potentially being injured coming out of that Florida Roots game early. No really clarification on that. But, of course, playing limited action in the Pensacola game, whether it be to injury or schematics. But he looked like he was a full participant in practice this week. So we anticipate he will be back into his usual role at right back. Another interest of note, Trent, we had Krembeck, who we were told messed up his finger. Like we said, in one of those saves. He was also full participant in practice. So I assume if he's good to go, he'll be ready to rock between the pipes. So basically, not really any concrete news for you there, but just to kind of catch you up to date, and things are looking positive. So all the guys, there was nobody in that mix really for the players that we had been talking about or we had heard potentially being injured. So we're assuming we'll be full health. Of course, won't know that till Friday when the 18 comes out and Saturday when the starters come out, but we'll make sure to keep an eye on that and try to keep you as updated as possible. Anything or any other points of interest you got for us going forward to Saturday, Trent?
Yeah, just a couple things to touch on what you said there. I went back and I watched the Krombeck play where he allegedly hurt his index finger. And that was the one where he saves it near post, deflects it back post, and he dives towards the front post, but he gets shot across his body back to his left. And on that play, when he dives the second time, he kind of puts his hands out down at the ground as he's falling down. And then, you know, he kind of rolls over, picks his hand up, is holding it a little bit. So I'm no doctor. I have no degree in medicine. But I think Krombeck's a tough man, and I think he's going to continue on playing well here. So, yeah, I think that's about it.
There you go. We must have to get our buddies at TOC to look him up, or maybe Dr. Laird will take a quick look at him, give him the okay, give him the green light or not. So I think Justice got us back in that. There's another thing of note, Trent. The U19 team finally did lift off this week. Of course, we had some crappy weather when they were supposed to the week before, but we did finally get that trial in. And so, once again, feeding the youth, feeding the community here. So cool to see TSC lift off with the U19 team. Of course, I will be told that they're scheduled to be playing in the fall and will also be competing here with our fellow MPSL teams here in the Gulf Coast Conference. So other teams that were in the mix, of course, the Jesters and them, I've been told that that is most likely scenario. But, of course, the door is open here for the U19 teams, but it's looking like the fall here that our boys are going to lift off. So cool to see, Trent.
Really, Joop. Yeah, just excited to see them get a team out there for kids ages 15 to 19. If they're not old enough or don't have the skills at that point in their age enough to get up to the first team, they still have a fallback, a reserve team that they can work through, get familiar with the coaches, the coaching staff, playing for this organization, and hopefully it'll lead them to become a first team battle line one day. So just really good outreach program for the youth and for the community as a whole.
Agreed. As we continue to focus on the youth or the younger guys here involved in the program or the club or interested in the club, a special shout out. We know we probably missed some other updates, and if we so, feel free to hit us up and we'll give those respective shout outs for graduations, etc. But we want to show some love to two graduates graduating this week here from Clay. Of course, you have Drew Daunt and Mateus Bittencourt graduating, two seniors that we've seen for a number of years here in the Big Bend go forward and do big things. Of course, Drew will be headed to Belmont Abbey to play college ball there, so make sure to keep a look at him in the next level. And Mateus is going to be staying at home and go to FSU, man, so it'll be cool to see him. And I'm sure if you do IMs or club soccer, you'll be running into Mateus, and he's going to be a mean threat on those fields. Of course, FSU, no sanctioned men's team. You'll definitely see him out the fields around FSU campus. Also, special shout out, 18th birthday this week for Mateus, so happy birthday, Mateus. Big week for him, man. How about that? A birthday and a high school graduation, getting ready to go for the next chapter of your life. So how about the big weekend for MB, man?
Yeah, and he might even get the chance to start for Smilker this weekend. He might even get the captain's armband at 18 years old. Who knows?
Yeah, I don't know if he gets to go ahead for the captain's armband. Justin make him over, rip that off him. He said, you need a guy with more experience. Let me get that.
No, just really exciting times in Bittencourt's life to be able to be a part of this club, stay here at home, go to FSU, get a great education, and be a part of the coolest soccer team in Tallahassee, period.
There you go. Mateus soon to join the illustrious alumni group here at FSU, so I can't wait in 4 years to welcome into that brotherhood that, of course, I'm a part of. But so shout out to that selfishly. And here locally at the 850, which you would think, Trent, if he's going to FSU, that means our boy's going to be around here in the summers, and we'll probably see him for at least a good 3-4 years here coming back for TSC, so exciting stuff. So the U19 team and our local boys getting some love here, continuing to grow the program, the club, and some exciting stuff. But that'll wrap us up here for our news and updates. Little segment for you, the TSC community, getting you up to date on what you need to know.
I got excited. I just wanted to shout it from on top of a mountain.
Our job is to report the news, not fabricate it.
Now, I don't know if this is the kind of hard-hitting news you're used to covering.
News team, assemble!
All right, and now we have to transition into the people segment, as we like to call it, our interrogations of interest. Of course, to the layman, it's going to be a rapid-fire set of questions here that we drill out these guys, but we're going to try to get some background and some information that you want to know from the club itself, not just two idiots talking over a podcast about it. So this week, we have Cameron Earls coming into the mix. Trent, I know right off the deck you have a pressing matter that you got to ask Cameron, so I'm going to let you take the first shot, man.
All right. Thank you for joining us, Cameron. We appreciate you taking some time to answer some questions with us. So, big question on everyone's mind. We want to know, take us through what happened there in the 76th minute that got us that second goal in the game.
I felt like we were pressing pretty well as a team,
They played it back to their keeper. He tried to get a little cheeky with it and took it right off his foot. He acted like he was hurt, but for the most part, I just had plenty of time to put it in the back of the net.
Was that the easiest goal that you've ever scored?
It was definitely one of the easiest goals I've ever scored.
Tell us a little bit about your soccer background.
I'm from Tifton, Georgia. I played 4 years at high school at Tift County. I played club for UFA South Georgia, and went to Piedmont University for 4 years and played there. And then my club coach last year, or 2 years ago, Tony Voiles, was the assistant coach here. He said, "Hey man, how'd you feel about coming playing for us?" I said, "Sure, why not? Give me something to do." I love the culture down here. I love what they're doing as a community, getting soccer pretty well known around here, and I really like it.
What was it like, once again, to be playing under Coach V?
It was great. It's been a while since I've been hanging out around him. Pretty excited to play under him again, and I just had a really great time, honestly.
I heard you had a chaotic weekend getting ready for your first TSC game. Tell us a little bit about that.
I hadn't been at training. The boys have been training since, I think, March, I believe. I've been up at school the whole time. I graduated Friday, came home to Tifton, and then Saturday morning went down to Tallahassee and rode down to Pensacola, got in the van, and came straight back. It was a pretty long journey, pretty tired from it, still trying to recuperate from it.
What was the road trip out to Pensacola like?
Huge road trip. It's actually funny. I believe Sunday before I even came home, someone was like, "Hey, you might want to get gas before you leave." I was like, no, I'm fine with her. Hey, there's no gas around here. I said, well, I should probably go find some gas. So I was a little worried that we weren't even going to make it to Pensacola because I knew Tallahassee was struggling a lot with gas. So it was kind of crazy, kind of scary, to be honest.
And how was the mindset out there for the PFC game?
Definitely something we had to use adversity with. I think we did pretty well with Coach not being there. Tony Voiles stepped up pretty well for us. The guys played well under him. We got a huge point on the road, and honestly just proud of the boys and glad to be back here in Tallahassee for the next, I think, 4 games or so.
What are your overall thoughts or impressions about last Saturday's game against Pensacola?
Honestly, I just think it was huge that we were able to come behind multiple times. We went down 3-1. I think getting a huge 2-goal deficit and then coming back from that was pretty huge for us. I think it showed us how we are as a team and that we don't give up.
The field out in Pensacola seemed a little rough. How was that for you guys to deal with, and did that affect the game at all?
The field was actually it was wider than normal, but there were a bunch of divots in the ground, so the ball kept bouncing a lot, kind of threw us off. We weren't used to it after playing out on this turf field. So it's going to be good to be back at Gene Cox and playing on some steady turf again.
After that third goal, what's the mood in the 70th minute after you guys are now down 2 goals with a scoreline 3-1?
Yeah, we definitely turned it up. We fell asleep, giving up that second goal, and then they just took advantage again and put that third one away, and we didn't let it bother us any. We just kept playing like we were playing. Coach Voiles made some good subs for us, and we were able to take them on their weakness when they weren't subbing as much, and we were able to tie the game up 3-3.
Going back to your goal, what was it like being so wide open, and did you know that you were so wide open when you picked it up?
It was kind of crazy. I got the ball back at my feet, and Captain Schmoker was like, "Hey, man, plenty of time." So I looked up and noticed the keeper was still on the ground. The defenders weren't even trying to come for me, and I told Coach the other day that was probably the most time I've ever had to shoot a ball in a game. So it was definitely different. I tried not to overthink it too much and just put it in the back of the net.
So we know there's a wild sequence at the end of the match. We couldn't really see it on the feed, of course, from the away cameras. But, of course, there was a lot of action. What went down in that chaos?
We were actually in extra time, and Brandon came up, took the free kick, served a great ball. Christian, I believe, was the one that got up and got it right over the keeper, and then we were all just sitting there. And then, unfortunately, our captain, Jacob Schmoker, got sent off, and we were all clueless, and we were kind of worried that the goal wasn't even going to count. But it counted for us, and I know a lot of people didn't see it at home, but it was actually a great header. A great job by Christian.
Of course, on that last goal, Brandon with the big hockey assist once again. Of course, now the second one that he's put in at a very late stage of the game. Has there been any word from Coach about getting him involved more in free kicks?
From what I've heard, he's one of the leading assisters on the team, so might as well keep sending him up there and get some more assists.
Yeah, tell us a little bit about the thoughts on the upcoming schedule here.
We have 4 home games here, and then after that we have like 3 straight away games that are in the span, I think, of like a week, and it's pretty far travel, so it's definitely going to take a lot on our part to make sure we're eating healthy, stretching right, going to bed on time, all that good stuff to make sure we're ready for those challenges. It's definitely going to be a huge challenge when we're traveling over 5+ hours to play a game.
What keeps you playing here with TSC, or what drew you in about the club?
I think it's just the family that's built around here. I mean, me being from South Georgia, I didn't know much about Tallahassee, but these guys have just brought me under their wing and made me feel like I was family. Brought me in, made some really good friends through this team, and I just look forward to the family aspect that comes every time I come down here.
Of course, you're a South Georgia guy. There's another South Georgia guy on the team, Cole Red. Have you had any run-ins with him in the past, or tell us a little bit about your experience with him?
He was actually, I played him in high school. He went to Lee County, and we were on the same club team for, I think, 4 or 5 plus years just playing together. So we've definitely known each other for a while.
Let's get a little personal for a second. What about the game of soccer do you truly enjoy?
For me personally, I think soccer relates a lot to life. You never know what's going to happen, and all you can do is control what you can control. And then there's ups and downs. You never know what's going to happen. Compare it to this game. We were down 3-1. We brought our spirits back up and tied it 3-3, and that's kind of how life is. And for me, soccer's always been a getaway. No matter what's going on in life, you can always escape to it, and there's always that soccer ball at your feet.
Overall, how's the team dynamic coming along for TSC?
Seems as I think this was the last group of guys that were coming in back from college, myself included, and I think we're starting to get that chemistry back, starting to get more fluid on the ball, starting to possess a little more, and get everyone back to the rhythm that we're used to.
We know you move around the field a little bit, can play a number of different positions. Where do you think you'll be appearing on the team most often?
Well, 2 years ago I played center back. Coach brought me in and said, "Hey, can you clear the ball for us, win some headers?" I said, "Sure." And then as the season was ending, he said, "Hey, man, I need a number 9. Can you come back?" And I said, "Sure." So when I came here last weekend to play the game, I had no idea where I was going to play. But personally, I prefer to play up top. But honestly, I'm just kind of the guy. If you need me anywhere, I'll play that place.
So far, you've played the majority of your minutes up on the front line. Tell us a little bit about the strike force that you guys have going on up there.
We're definitely loaded up top. I know he scored a ton of goals in high school, and he's just a great finisher. He whenever he's around the goal, the first thing he's looking to do is shoot the ball. Johnny is the attacking mid. He's great. He's pinging the ball around, doing what he needs to do, and if he needs to shoot, he can. And then Justin's a class finisher. He's a pretty good hold-up striker. Whenever he can turn and get the shot off, and I think that's what makes us so deadly up top.
Talk a little bit about the differences of being a part of TSC compared to ones you've been on before.
Definitely for the high schoolers. I mean, being 18, 17-year-olds, they're not used to playing with college level, pretty much compared to like grown men. And then we have guys that are, almost in their 30s, and it's definitely different. But I think that's what makes us such a great team is we have a different age, different generation for every position, and it's like we can just come well together and just be a great team.
When you're not in the game, who is a player on the team that you enjoy watching?
I love watching Aaron Wimberly. He's really calm on the ball. I think he's a great CDM. He distributes the ball very well. Also like watching Joseph Peralta. He's very communicative center back. I think he does great for us. And I would even go back to Cy. He's so fast, so quick, and whenever he gets the shot off, he can get the shot off.
Jumping forward to Saturday, what do you think about going against Southern States, who's currently at the top of the table right now?
We're definitely going to be seen as the underdog, but like Coach said earlier, I definitely think we have just the same amount of talent as they do. I think we're probably even a better team than them, and I don't think they've had a challenge yet. So I'm ready to challenge them Saturday and hopefully get a big result.
What are your thoughts about the team going forward?
I think we're ready to go. I think we're back to where we should be. Coach has got some good training sessions in, and I think we're about to start making a run here back at home.
And once again, just wanted to thank Cameron for coming on and being this week's Interrogations of Interest, one of your favorite battle lines here in Tallahassee, the pride of Piedmont and of Tift County, Cameron Earls.
And that's all we have time for here on today's podcast. Thank you again for joining the TallySCtalk podcast. Andrew Joop and Trent Young, we want to thank you for coming aboard with us. Make sure, as always, shameless plug for the social media at TallySCtalk, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter to stay up to date with notices and when we're dropping those new podcasts and the special of Interrogations of Interest, which will go up on our YouTube shortly in the coming days. Of course, for any information, make sure you come back with us for the podcast, continuing to dump these out. Your favorite podcast provider, TallySCtalk, is where you can search those, and you will find us where you need to be. Once again, plug in the mailbag, TallySCtalk@gmail.com. Interesting conversation, topics, questions you have for us, or just need some discussion. make sure to hit us up, TallySCTalk@gmail.com. But once again, Andrew Joop and Trent Young signing off for this week's episode. Be well. Can't wait for you to root for those Southern states to go down, get that big Tally SC 3 points.